I will start with two of the most popular books of the 1920s, The Great Gatsby and All Quiet on the Western Front. All Quiet on the Western Front was published in 1929 by Erich Maria Remarque, a German veteran of the war. Although the book was originally published in German, it was soon translated into over a dozen languages and became one of the highest-selling books of all time during the 1920s. The book sold more than 20 million copies in the United States alone and sold millions more worldwide. When The Great Gatsby was published in 1922, it soon became the classic example of the great American novel of the time. However, the book did not achieve great fame until the 1950s, when it was rated number 2 out of 100 of the top books written in the 20th century thus far. As a result, the book is still required reading in many high schools even today, including our own. World War I made for a very common topic for many poets during the 1920s. The British poet Siegfried Sassoon wrote some of his best works during the late 1920s about his experiences in the trenches during World War I. The Lost Generation is a group of American writers who often based their works on their experiences in World War I. The term Lost Generation was coined by Ernest Hemingway, one of the main writers in this group. The war's physical and psychological effects had left many of these writers feeling lost with themselves and lost in society. They couldn't seem to fit into regular society and were thus deemed lost. These literary modernists were often considered the radical writers of their time. Among others, the three main founders of the Lost Generation were Ernest Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Gertrude Stein. These writers would often get together in restaurants and cafes to discuss their ideas and their works. Hemingway is one of many World War I veterans who based their works upon what they saw occur during the war. His most famous book, A Farewell to Arms, is a semi-autobiography about his personal experience in the war as an ambulance driver. In addition to being a writer, he was a famous reporter for several notable newspapers of the day, and his work often took him all around the world. F. Scott Fitzgerald was a writer of novels and short stories based on the Jazz Age, a term which he himself thought of. In addition to his 4 primary novels, he also wrote countless short stories for the Saturday Evening Post. He was also a personal friend of Ernest Hemingway. In addition to supposedly starting the term Lost Generation, Gertrude was also the inspiration for Ernest Hemingway. For over 30 years, she ran a saloon in Paris, which attracted many of the most famous writers and artists of the day. In addition to helping to start the Lost Generation, she was also an avid collector of modern art, many of which remains to this day. The Harlem Renaissance was a time of black cultural advancement in New York City. The Harlem Renaissance lasted from 1919 to the 1930s and produced many famous actors, writers, and musicians. The Harlem Renaissance was named after The New Negro, an anthology written by Alain Locke, a famous black writer. Du Bois founded the National Association for the Advancement of the Colored People to help promote African American history and civil rights. He often wrote articles for the San Francisco Chronicles and the Chicago Defender, which was an African American newspaper. Hubert Harrison was a socialist who used radicalism to promote his race and also the Harlem Renaissance. Harrison gained fame for being one of the first blacks to challenge the KKK and their actions through his own writing. In addition to campaigning for civil rights, he was also a firm supporter of socialism.